I think Tom just gave me a new tagline, you know, about making active citizenry a renewable resource, and it's ultimately what makes policy change. And that's what we're here to talk about, is how people together have said, we need to do something because the climate's changing rapidly. And after years of struggle, the EPA, under President Obama's leadership and with a lot of pressure of people like yourselves in this room, said, let's get after it and let's do something. So they passed this Clean Power Plan. And you're going to hear a lot from people here in Texas that it's going to bankrupt the state. We're going to have to retire a bunch of coal plants. Lights will go out. You know, the heavens will crack open and the gates of hell will snap away and we'll all die because it'll be so hot. Well, that's what they've said every time we've had a major environmental regulation proposed in the United States. And so far, the lights haven't gone out, and we haven't gone bankrupt. As a matter of fact, since the last time we heard this, when we were talking about the CARE rules in 2005, the costs of electricity have gone down. And so we know that this can be done. And we believe that Texas will be a big winner under these carbon rules, both because it's going to reduce air pollution and carbon risks, and heat, it's going to reduce healthcare utility costs and create hundreds of thousands of jobs. And we'll be able to export, we think, excess renewables and natural gas if we do the plan right. Now, you've heard a lot about it. I think most of you have a pretty good grasp of what's happening in carbon. But basically, to give you a summary, over the last couple of centuries, as we have industrialized, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere has gone up, and rapidly. Especially beginning in about 1950, it starts to go up very significantly. And we need carbon to have a tolerable life on this planet. It's like having a blanket at night. But what's happened is the blanket of carbon has gotten so thick that it's overheating us, just like a winter blanket will on a spring day, or the winter blanket we put on earlier this week did last night. You know, it's a little bit too thick. We're just getting too hot here. But what you see over there is that the temperature change has gone up dramatically. Now, we've had temperature changes in the past, but never one so rapid. And that's what's beginning to concern thousands of scientists that are the credentialed people, and 97% of them that actually do work in this area are saying we got a big problem, and the species are not going to be able to adapt as rapidly as they need to maintain the viability of life. Now, I'll give you a measure of this. For most of Texas, by 2041, we're going to be experiencing the summer of 2011 all of the time. The number of 100-degree days on average will increase to 51 here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The amount of water in our lakes and rivers will decrease dramatically because of less rain. We'll have followed by periods of torrential rain so intense that the recharge systems won't be able to handle them. And the evaporation with the heat will increase by roughly a third. So we'll have a third less recharge and a third more evaporation, meaning that many of the water supplies we use for our own use and for our power plants are going to be running dry. Now, the utilities say, oh, this is going to cost so much, maybe 9% increase in the average electric bill. Well, I'm here to tell you we're already paying for climate change, and the 2011 was a really good model for how much is it going to cost us. You know, depending on the year, we're spending somewhere between $79 million and as much as $1 billion in terms of increased health care as a result of climate change nationally already. The average electric bill in 2011 increased by 9%, increased water costs 12%, insurance costs for property and casualty after all those wildfires and so forth, about 10% across the bout. Wildfires cost each of us about $300 in our property insurance, $7.6 billion in agricultural losses, and a 5.5% increase in the cost of food. All of those being adding up are significantly higher than the 9% increase in electric bills that they're worrying about. You've seen this chart nationally in Rob's presentation, but in Texas, we get about a third of our carbon emissions from our power plants, and there aren't that many coal plants. There are about 25 big coal plants in the state of Texas, about a third from our industrial sector, which is all the oil and gas stuff, and about 29% from our transportation industry. We've actually gone after transportation. That number is going to be shrinking dramatically, but there are about 20,000 different sources of industrial air pollution, plus all the fracking and all that other kind of stuff that makes up the other sector. So it's a lot easier and more cost-effective to go after the utility sector because we have all these other resources that are now cheaper than burning coal. Now, you've heard what the requirements are, and we have a simple plan. If you start to add it all up, and if we double the use of renewables, we increase energy efficiency to 1.5% as opposed to about 4.4% we're doing right now. We increase the use of natural gas plants, and or if we just retired all the 50-year-old coal plants, we'd blow by the 108 million metric tons we've got to reduce per year by 2030, or 2030. We're easily going to hit the 20% market. I was just, when Tom said we've got 12,000 megawatts of wind up and turning, I realized I got to update my resume again. I did it last year. We have almost 14,000 megawatts, another 2,000 this year. We're expecting to add another 19,000 megawatts of renewables by 2016. And so we're going to blow right by that, without a doubt. There have been 2,500,000 interconnection agreements proposed to the state, and there's an additional 5,000 megawatts, almost 6,000 megawatts of solar in the queue. Now, that's up from 3,000 when I did this first edition of the PowerPoint back in September of this year. So solar is coming on strong and very quickly. And one of the big concerns that's been raised is if you have all this renewables on the system, how is it you're going to be able to ramp stuff up and down? And how are you going to keep the lights on? Well, energy storage is the answer, and there's 594 megawatts of that in permitted that could be built any day of the week. And now Encore, CenterPoint, and AEP are talking about putting batteries at distribution centers to be able to catch all the wind from the at night, the solar during the day, and then replay it during the afternoons when we need it the most. This is a brilliant strategy and something we think will work a lot. Energy efficiency is the cornerstone of this. This is what's been keeping the lights on in the last couple of summers when everybody said, oh, lights are going to go out because we don't have enough reserve margin. We've saved 1.5% of the energy, the growth in demand of energy because of energy efficiency. The stuff at the PUC, building codes, appliance standards, it's working like crazy, and this is a great opportunity for us. We could just retire all the old coal plants that are 50 years old, and we would meet our 39% reduction requirement like that. Now, there are 4 simple ways to do a plan. Basically, you just tell the utility companies you do it. You get down to 791 pounds per megawatt hour, and that's what we've done in the past. Or we could do what we've done in the past and create an emissions banking and trading program like we did for the CARE program. One big thing we have to do is make sure we do the accounting, because we're already making a lot of reductions. We ought to empower the energy systems labs to do that, and all of the reductions that come from utilities, cities, from individuals needs to go into an accounting system. And we need to create a market-based energy efficiency trading program to be able to assure that the utilities that are making reductions can trade for efficiency if they can't make enough reductions in time. Now, just last week, or this week on Monday, ERCOT came out with an estimate of how much it was going to cost to comply with this rule, and they said your bills are going to go up 20%. What they didn't do is they overestimated the cost of just about every alternative and underestimated the benefits. Their thumb was on the scale heavy on this one. For example, they overestimated the cost of solar by 30%. They didn't look at the cost that Austin Energy had just gotten earlier this year. They make a big deal about the cost of ramping the gas plants to go up and down to meet our energy demands, but they forgot about energy storage. And that's how you solve that problem at less cost. And Brattle came out today with a study that said that is cheaper than building a new gas plant. Let me say that. Energy storage now is cheaper than building a new gas plant. We are at the point where we thought we would be by 2020. They underestimate energy efficiency. They didn't include building codes, nor do they include appliance standards. Nor did they look at the costs we're already incurring as a result of carbon and say, that's cheap by comparison to what we're already incurring in terms of cost. Nor did they look at the fact that as a result of deregulation, our costs went up 40% from 2002 to 2012 as a result of deregulation. So they're talking 20% because of this, but they're forgetting that costs already went up because of the belief that competition would solve all their problems. Can we make this transition? You bet. Don't underestimate the power of Texans. Since 1999, we have built 48,000 new megawatts of generation and retired a bunch of old, crappy plants, as we were at that point. Now, we know we've got a lot of generation requests in the line. Half of that's coming from renewable energies, and together we can do that. Now, These rules can make Texans big winners in terms of reducing the demand for increasing the demand for natural gas elsewhere, increasing investment in solar and renewable energy and energy efficiency, and creating hundreds of thousands of jobs, freeing up water and reducing the costs that we're going to incur everywhere. But the challenge we have is to come up with ways to work together as a community to envision how to make energy efficiency a key central part of that, and how to reframe the argument that we have that energy efficiency is not only a big part of this solution, but is the leading money saver in this equation. And instead of seeing this as a daunting task, we should see this as an enormous opportunity. And as you in this room who know how to make that happen, you are the visionaries that have created Texas's energy efficiency program, which was the first in the nation to have a market-based energy efficiency program. And together we can come up with the ideas and the implementation plan to make sure we're saving energy and we're reducing the gases that are causing climate change. Together we can make the savings that are going to be necessary to save our planet. Thank you very much for your time.